Okay, so we will start off by trying to simplify a few ratios. So if you're given a question like this, write each of the following in simplest form. This is question 1 of chapter 2F. And if I had a ratio like this is B, 9 to 12. Just like we did with fractions, when we wanted to simplify them, we just have to look for a number, a common factor. So what's the obvious common factor here? 3. So if I was to divide each by 3, 9 would become 3 and 12 would become 4. So 3 to 4 is that ratio written in simplest form. So you need to find the highest common factor of the two and then divide each of them by that factor. So if we had one like this, and I had 16 to 24 to 42. So same type of thing. We're looking for a common factor between the three numbers here. So can anyone see a common factor here? 8? Yeah? Alright, let's start with 2, and then, so if you're not sure, because you can always simplify further. So if we start with 2, if I divide each of these by 2, this would be 8, this would be 12, and this would be 21. So is there any simplification of that we're going to be able to do? Is there any common factor that we could divide each of those by? No. Alright, so that's as simple as the ratio can go. 8, 12, 21. Alright, so I won't do any more from question 1. What if we had something like this? Question 2. I'll do B because it's not one of the ones that I've set for you to do. So 2B has 1.25 to 5.5, and they want us to write that in simplest form. So first, you'd be getting rid of this word 2, and you'll be using a colon instead, because that's pretty much what the colon's representing, the word 2. So this ratio is 1.25 to 5.5. So 1.25 to 5.5. Now, these decimals aren't extremely helpful for us, so what might we do to both sides of the ratio? Good. If I multiply this by 100, that will become 125, and this will become 550. Alright, so I've got 125 to 550 by multiplying both sides by 100, and then again you look for a common factor between the two. So if I divide each side by 25, what you'll find is that this ratio will be 5 to 22. Alright, and it might take you a second to do that. If you've got a calculator, it's pretty easy to work out what that common factor is, because if you've got a calculator, you could just go 125 over 550, and then the calculator will actually simplify the ratio for you. So if I show you here, if I go 125, and then there's this little fraction button that you can press over 550, you can see that you get 5 over 22. So straight away that's done that simplification of the ratio for me. So that might be a little trick that you can use to check your answers. Alright, then I'll do one example with some unknowns, because I know yesterday in our Education Perfect we had some examples where there were some unknown values. So I'll do 7b. 7b, we've got 15 to 50 is equal to 3 to b. So we learnt a trick in yesterday's lesson on how to approach a question like this. So since these ratios are in proportion, does anyone know how I could write this? Could I write this as a fraction? Alright, so what fraction could I write? Should I go 15 over 3 equals 50 over b? Alright, so I can write this as 15 over 3 is equal to, so taking that value and that value, wrote 15 over 3, and then on the other side I'm going to have 50 over b. Now we have to use this cross multiplication thing that we learnt yesterday. Yep. Yep. So yesterday when we did these, we went 15 over 50, didn't we? Is that what you're asking? Yeah. So either way will work. We'll get the same answer if we substitute the values consistently. So if I go 15 over 3 and I go 50 over b, so see how I've compared those two values and I've compared those two values. If we were to go 15 over 50 is equal to, so I've done that one over that one, and I did 3 over b, would I get the same answer? Let me just pause the recording for a second. So regardless of whether we write this as 15 over 3 is equal to 50 over b, or you could take this value and go over that value and say it's equal to that value over that value. When we rearrange these to try and solve for b, we'll get the same answer either way. So this is where yesterday we learnt a method called cross multiplication. So we can go this value multiplied by this value and this value multiplied by this value here. So this times this would give me 15b is equal to, and now I'm going to go 50 times 3 gives me 150. Now we don't want 15b, we want b all by itself, so we need to try and get rid of this 15. So what we can do is we can divide both sides of the equation by 15. So if I divide both sides by 15, divided by 15 just gives me 1, so on that side I'm left with b, because 1b is just b, which is equal to 150 divided by 15 gives me 10. Alright, so our unknown value in that situation is 10. Or, let's have a look at this one and let's see if we get the same thing. So if I do the cross multiplication here, so I do the cross multiplication, again, see how I'm going to have 15 times b is equal to 3 times 50, which is again 150. Can you see that that is the exact same thing as what we had initially? Therefore, b will be equal to 10. Alright, so it doesn't matter how you set up that initial fraction. You could either go 15 over 50 is equal to 3 over b, like we did there, or you could go that one over that one is equal to that one over that one. What you can't do, what will not work, is you can't go 15 over b will be equal to 50 over 3. Right? If you mix them up like that, that ratio will not work. You've kind of messed up the proportion. Yep.
So do you always have to do the cross? Because I knew that like 15 divided by 5 is 3, 50 divided by 5 is 10.
So in some instances, you'll be able to do them in your head like that. But when the numbers get a little more complicated, it gets more difficult. All right, so it's a nice process to learn. But you're right, you could have done that without having to do the cross multiplication. All right, so those are the only examples I want to go through. I suggest that you spend the majority of the lesson working through the questions I listed for chapter 2F, because 2F have some of these ones with the unknown values, which will be good for you to practice, as well as the simplifying ratios. All right, so on sector, I've listed questions for chapter 2F, and I want you to work through those ones. Remember, when I write aces, it means to do every second question, and in some instances, I've only listed a few of them for you to do. So there's not that many questions listed, but they're all good practice, and they'll help you with our assessment that we're going to do tomorrow.